The 2025 NFL Draft is literally 1 week away, and there are rumors, storylines, and headlines out there that need addressing that could ultimately shape the NFL Draft and possibly the NFL season. Let's get into it. All right, we're literally 1 week away from the NFL Draft, and there's a lot of things going on here. Some headlines have been swirling throughout the news media cycles, things of that nature. What teams should do, what they may do, what is kind of speculated what they're going to do. A lot of fodder out there from GMs and owners and coaches saying certain things that kind of swaying people's opinion on what they feel like they're going to do. It's speculation time. I mean, let's be real. It's speculation season. I think I'm going to call that from now on. From the time we leave the combine and free agency, I'm going to call it speculation season. So we've been speculating for a month and a half, for a lot of people have anyway, about what's going to happen in the NFL Draft in a week. So we're going to talk about 4 quick headlines here today, some player-oriented and some team-oriented in regards to what is going to happen in a week, and ultimately, how things are going to shake out. I'm going to be honest and forthright about a lot of things here, some player-oriented things and some team-oriented things and what some front offices should be doing. And I'm just going to lay it out on the line, man. I think these things are going to be kind of shocking to certain people, but it's my honest opinion. And if people are honest with themselves and hold themselves accountable to their jobs and try to be good at their jobs, they should really consider what I'm saying. So with that being said, I'm going to start off with talking about the Colorado boys, Shedeur and Travis. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have been talked about in a lot of avenues and a lot of lanes in the last 3 years, to be honest. I mean, all the way back to the winner at Jackson State. I mean, hell, I would give Travis even a bigger conversation than that, because everybody scrutinized his ability or his decision to want to be with Deion Sanders and under his tutelage, right? But I mean, if you just look at it from a talent perspective, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, the kid's a two-way player. So is Deion. He's a very highly skilled and very athletic and spectacular generational type talent like Deion. So it makes perfect sense why he would want to be taught by Deion Sanders versus just going to any old college program and just kind of be out there, right? If I'm a linebacker looking to be in the NFL and Ray Lewis can be my coach, I'm going to choose Ray Lewis no matter where he's coaching versus just choosing any, top 5 schools, Power 5 school, just be, the quote unquote, be a name in the face on TV, right? But if I don't get the skills in the tutelage I need to be a pro athlete, which I ultimately want to be, I'm lacking. But that was Travis's narrative, go all the way through high school and college, and once he made his decision and things of that nature. So let's start with him before we get to Shedeur. Now, it's in the headlines now and in the news cycle that, he is really doubling, tripling down on the idea that he wants to be a two-way player. Now, I want him to be honest and look at this from a wide angle lens. If you look at his mentor's quote unquote career, right? Deion was an excellent and supreme. I would argue that he's the best corner we've ever seen play the sport of football, right? Now he did want to dabble in offense and do some things in that regard, but he was never, ever honest and truly, quote unquote, dominant receiver. He was more of a gadget guy, just to put out there because you needed him, give him another look. You had a package for Deion. He didn't have a whole entire offense built around Deion. He never did that. And as his career went on, he played way less wide receiver than he did corner. He kind of, I don't know if somebody told him or he just understood in his own regard that, corner was his niche and he needs to focus on that and be the best at that. Because I think that what Travis is saying, a lot of people have been browbeating him on for saying this, that, because he's even come out and saying flat out that he'll quit football if people try to make him play one position. But I'll be honest with you and forthright when I say this, that football at the NFL level, I mean, football in general is hard to play. But at the pro level, the 1% of the 1%, is very hard to play one position. I understand that you're talented, you're young, you think you can do it all. But it's the pros. It is the pros. It's hard enough to be an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber player year in and year out at one position. And you talking about splitting your time and being part of two. I think it's a rough decision. I really do. I think that you can kind of be involved in the offense a little bit, kind of like Deion was in his earliest career. But I don't think that you should be honestly, truly focused on two positions. I really think he should really be focusing on cornerback. And now, ultimately, it's his decision what he wants to do. But you got to realize that you are putting yourself out there for more risk when you do this. And especially depending on who drafts you. And we're going to get into that and who I think should draft you in a few. However, I believe that Travis ultimately should make the decision at some point in his early part of his career, no matter who drafts him, to hone in on being a DB. I think he's a way better defensive back than he is a wide receiver. I really do believe that. I think if he hones in and really crafts his game to be a dominant cornerback in this league, he can be the best at it. You know, he up there with the upper echelon of Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner, you name it. You know, the top guys. I think he'd be right up there in that conversation very early on. I really, and he'll stay there, especially with guys like Deion Sanders in his corner, teaching him the nuances and intricacies of the game and the pro level game that it is the NFL. So if he's going to be about, playing pro sport and being the best person he can be, I would honestly truly be focused on one side of the ball. And I think that, although he played receiver in college, I don't think he was spectacular. I think he was just okay at receiver, but he flourished at corner. I think that's where he needs to plant his seeds and plant his foundation at and being the best at it. He could go down as the best cornerback in his generation if he works at it properly with his skill set. So I think he really honestly and truly should hone in and focus on being a cornerback, and then really getting into that area, because I'm going to be real. If he manages, because it's going to be very hard to do, it's going to be very hard to keep yourself healthy and whole throughout your entire career playing two positions, let alone playing one. I think one is rough. Two is really stretching it. So I think that, but even by stretching yourself that far, I think that you're going to limit and pigeonhole yourself as far as being an all-time great player if you really try to split your time on both sides of the ball. I really think that's a bad move. I do. And I hope that Deion, can maybe get through to him at some point and tell him this. But I really think he's doing himself a disservice if he does not play. If he plays both positions, I really do. He should really focus on one, and maybe it's a maturity thing, and maybe he'll understand it and get through to himself at some point and decide to lean on one side of the ball. But I really think that he should try to focus on that particular area and that area only. Because I think he can go down to the greatest position if he does. He can literally be up in the annals with Deion if he honestly truly hones in on being a cornerback in this league. That's just my opinion. Now, moving on to Shedeur really quickly. There's been a lot of talk, and more talk about Shedeur and Travis, in all honesty, about his quote unquote stock falling. I think that a lot of people have been, going back and forth about whether he's a first round talent now. At one point, he was the number one quarterback, rated even over Cam Ward at some points and things of that nature. I really think that there's a lot of shady pool happening here in regards to maybe trying to push him to a certain team. Maybe he's doing, maybe it's the media's doing. I mean, we see this all the time. So I'm not going to actually pinpoint it on him. We see it in the media try to force these stories on people all the time to quote unquote change their draft stock. And it could be just the NFL teams putting these, nasty rumors out there and giving it to the media, and the media is running with it because, again, it's clickbait. It gets them attention. So they put it out there, they run with these stories, and guess what? It grows legs, and all of a sudden things change about people. Look at Jalen Carter, for instance. Jalen Carter fell to the Eagles, and look, he won a Super Bowl already. Now they're trying to give Abdul Carter the narrative. He got character issues. Let him fall in the draft and fall to a contending team. Guess what? He's going to win a Super Bowl before most people would that's picking at the top of the draft. So let it happen and keep letting it happen. But again, this particular aspect of it, I think in Shedeur's case, I think it's hurting him. Honestly, and I'm going to talk about exactly who I think should pick him. In all honesty, regardless of what they talking about him from a narrative perspective. Because in all honesty, when you talk about football, at some point you got to turn on the tape. You got to turn on the tape. You got to watch him play football himself. You got to see what type of measurables he has, what his athleticism is, and all these things that he does on the football field. Again, I understand that the quote unquote media aspect of it and the character aspect of it is part of being an NFL athlete, but that's outside of the white lines. What he does on the white lines is worthy of a first round draft pick. I'm just going to say it. Now, whether he goes in the top 5 or he falls to somewhere like the Saints or the Steelers, somewhere like that, that remains to be seen. But I do believe that this whole idea of him, falling in a draft and not being the quote unquote second quarterback taken in the draft is bogus. I really do. And I think it's more so about his last name and who his father is than just him. Because let's be honest, he's his father's son. Let's be real. And people have hated on Deion for an infinite amount of time. And what bothers them about Deion is they can't change his opinion of himself because of what they say. And every time he goes somewhere, he's successful. That burns people up that want to see him fall. And I think they want that same thing to happen to his son, because they want to hang over the head and say, hey, you did this. You were the best quarterback in the league. You won Super Bowls. You did this. You did that. You played 2 sports. You did all these things. You were successful at coaching this and the third, but your son failed at being a pro athlete. Somebody wants to say that. I know they do. I know they do. And again, it's unfair to the kid, because again, the kid has been bred to play football since he was a little boy. And I honestly and truly, if anybody else with a football lineage like he has, and it wasn't Deion Sanders' son, it would be a different story. It would be a different story. So I believe that he's getting a lot of scrutiny because of who his dad is. You can hearken and equate to the whole Bronny James story versus LeBron and Deion versus Shedeur. I think it's bigger than just him and as a player, because you turn on the tape, he's the most accurate quarterback in college football last year, maybe the last 2 years. He had a terrible O-line, no run game, and he still completed over 70% of his passes. If you just put that on paper, blind resume, that's a top 5, top 10 quarterback in this league, especially in a weak draft of quarterbacks. You got Cam Ward and him, bar none. And now on top of the fact that he has an NFL lineage, unlike Cam Ward does. Cam Ward doesn't have a Hall of Fame father. And I think NFL legacy and NFL pedigree, DNA has something to say something about how they know how to be a pro. So understand this. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a functional and good quarterback in this league. It just matter who picks him. Who's going to get lucky enough to pick him, in my honest opinion. I really do believe that. So, balking and you listen to the pundits if you want to, miss out on this boat. And if you're the teams like who I'm going to talk about in a minute about who has picked 2 and 3, you pass on him, it's likely going to cost you your job. I'm going to be real. So again, I think that this whole idea of what Shedeur is doing, not doing, in the media and things of that nature, his confidence and all this type of stuff, he's Deion's son. If you have no problem with Deion's confidence, you should have no problem with Shedeur's. That's just where I leave it. But again, if you pass on this kid, he's going to make you regret it. I do believe that. He has his father's DNA in him, true and true. So let's just be honest about this, and let's say I'm not going to see him act like he's Jaden Daniels, but he's going to be a functional quarterback in this league. Just a matter of who gets him. And speaking of that, let's talk about the top of the draft, right? Let's talk about the top of the draft, because these 2 gentlemen should go in the top 10, but we'll see how things go. I think 1 is definitely going to go, maybe 2. So let's talk about the top of the draft. The Browns have picked at 2. The Browns have picked 2. The Giants have picked 3. So I do believe in my heart of hearts that both these teams need quarterbacks. It's been a lot of chatter, a lot of rumors that neither one of them will say quarterbacks. The Browns just signed Joe Flacco on top of trading for Kenny Pickett, so they have those 2 in the house. Deshaun Watson's going to be hurt for a year. He's not playing this year at all, let's be real. And they are acting like they don't need a quarterback or succession plan from those names I just listed, which I think is bogus. Again, going back to the Shedeur Sanders conversation, why wouldn't you take Shedeur Sanders at 2 to be a succession plan? Because you're going to be able to get out of the Deshaun Watson deal in the next 1 or 2 years. You need a succession plan. If you can groom him now with Kevin Stefanski being a wizard offensively, it makes total sense. Because right now they're talking about taking Travis Hunter at 2, which absolutely positively makes no sense when you have 3 functional and good corners on your team. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Emerson. You're set at corner. Now, and I just underscore the fact that Travis is not the best receiver in college football. He's not. I mean, I love the kid, but I think he's a better corner than a receiver. He's not going to change your fortune or change your franchise at number 2 by picking him, and he's going to sit behind Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, who've been pros for years. They've been doing it for years, so it makes no sense. Now, you can make the argument that they get Abdul Carter, Perry Mo, Myles Garrett, and you got an elite pass rush. I get it. But you need stability. And in this league, without a quarterback, you have nothing. So what the Browns should do is draft Shedeur Sanders. That's what they should do. But if they don't, they pick Travis Hunter, which I think is a flat-out mistake when you have that particular talent already in your room. You have needs elsewhere, mainly at quarterback. The idea of passing on Shedeur Sanders for whatever reason that you might be thinking he might not change your franchise or be as a good succession plan for you is bogus. So they do pick Abdul Carter, do pick up Travis Hunter. I think it's utter mistake. And I think Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are going to be looking up at the owner and wonder whether or not they're going to be safe in the next year or 2. That's just my take on it. I do. But if they don't take him, I'm here to tell you that it's going to be a mistake. So what they do at pick 2 is their business. I mean, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are going to be transformational players, but they're not a quarterback. Oh, and what you sorely need. And speaking of teams that sorely need quarterbacks, I'm going to talk about another team. That's the Giants. The Giants are in more of a need of a quarterback than the Browns are at this moment in time. I mean, we're talking, and again, Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. And I'll be honest. I will be honest. Russell Wilson, to me, at this stage of his career, has a ceiling here. At his age, he has a clear ceiling here. And he seems to flame out or bottom out at the end of the seasons. If Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are going to hitch their wagon to Russell Wilson and keep their job, they should write their termination, turn their termination letters in now. Just write your resignation letters, hand them in, and say by the season's over or by Christmas or Thanksgiving, one of those times when we're 2 and whatever, I think we should go ahead and just be like, okay, we just find a new leadership regime because we're not it. We're not it. We're clearly over our skis. We shouldn't have been here in the first place, and we just don't know what we're doing. I'm sorry. Because the quarterback room that you currently have, I don't like it. You got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito. I don't think any of these people are going to buy you any time because they're looking up at Saquon Barkley winning the Super Bowl already, and the clock is ticking. Let's just keep it honest. The clock is ticking. So I don't think that they're going to honestly, truly change your fortune. But I will say this. What will buy you time is drafting a young quarterback. Now, mind you, it could be slick. Let's say hypothetically the Browns take Abdul Carter, right, at 2. Let's say they take Travis Hunter at 3, which they will need. Now, I will say the Giants do need a corner. A transformational corner, Travis Hunter, the Giants do need that. Travis will make more sense for the Giants than he do the Browns. But let's say they do that, and they go back in the second round, the top of the second round, to get a quarterback. Kyle McCord, Jalen Monroe, Quinn Ewers, somebody like that. Hell, if Jackson Dart slips out of the first round, maybe they do that. Now, if they do that, then okay, I'll back off. But I don't think they're looking at quarterback at all with this room. And I think that's a mistake. But that's your bid. You got to lie in it. But I think that, again, let's say if they opportunely, the Browns opportunity pass or get Abdul Carter and pass on Shedeur Sanders, like I said, they should be the one to get Shedeur Sanders. Because you can sell to the front office that if I got Russell Wilson now at his age, I got Shedeur Sanders, and I got to let Tommy DeVito go at this point, or Jameis Winston, whoever you want to let go. I can let one of them go at this point. Then I not only got the current, I got the future. And let me groom them. Let me mold them. And I can almost ultimately, have a plan in place that's going to allow me to be able to keep my job past this season. Because if you not only do you not win and not have a succession plan, you're gone. Let's just be real. So if the Giants are smart, which I'm not sure at this moment, they may or may not be, you might want to decide to pick a quarterback in Shedeur Sanders if he passes the Browns at 2. That's just my take. But we'll see what the Giants do. But if they go in and pick up Travis Hunter and then pick up running back or another skill position or something like that in the second round, you can forget the idea of picking a succession plan. Just go ahead and write that resignation letter now. Just go ahead and do it because it's not in the cards. It's really not in the cards. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. Now, quickly, moving on to the draft itself. A lot of chat have been going on about why there haven't been any draft day trades, first round, second round trades. In the speculation period is what I'm going to call it, right? I do think there's 2 things in regards to that, really quick. I think it's the talent pool in 2025. Nobody outside of Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are changing people's fortune overnight. So, and the fact that the people are likely going to look at them as being the top 5 picks, no matter who takes them. The idea of trading up, the cost is too high, and outside of those 2 guys, nobody's, like really shaking the tree to be like, okay, I got to have this guy in the first round or we're not going to be able to do business. I think that the talent pool, people are looking at it where I can just stick and pick and figure out where I'm picking at. I don't think I need to reach for anybody. And the fact that, again, the price is high. I'm literally mortgaging my future in most cases, and it keeps going up. I'm going to mortgage my future, and the price is extremely high, and I'm not going to have anything draft capital-wise to do anything with anybody for the next 2 years. So I don't think we're going to see any first-round trades, period. I don't think we're going to see it. Unless the draft board completely and utterly shifts within the top 5, I don't think that, honestly and truly, nobody's going to trade in the first round. Maybe the second, or maybe somebody comes back into the first round to get a quarterback. They get that 5th-year option. But outside of that, I think it's going to be a very bland and sticking and picking for the first round, in my opinion. But we'll see. We will see. And lastly, let's talk about the Saints and the Steelers being at a crossroads. And I think they're the wild card teams in this. Who I talked about in the top of this, if Shedeur, falls, What do the Saints or the Steelers do if they had the opportunity to pick him? I think you do grab him. I think there's no way that you let him pass you by. I really do. The Saints got 9, the Steelers got 21. If the Steelers decide, if the Saints decide that they want to do something else, get a corner or edge rusher or something like that, hell, maybe in a lineman, depending on what Ryan Ramchick's going to do, I think that it might be a situation where they might, balk at Shedeur, which again would be a mistake in my opinion, especially with a new head coach. But if they do, the Steelers, if he falls to the Steelers have to pull a trigger. Now I'm gonna have Lauren on the show on Friday in regards to what the Steelers should do in deep detail. But I do believe this is a preview of that. I think they really need to consider drafting a quarterback, be it Shedeur, if he falls, Jackson Dart. I'm not high on Jalen Milroe at all. Kyle McCord, maybe Quinn Ewers, somebody they can groom to be the succession plan long term, because this patchwork and this rumors of Aaron Rodgers is nonsense. And I think they really are doing themselves a disservice if they don't get a quarterback in this draft that's young and moldable. Somebody you can mold and build and grow with for the near term. So we'll see what happens, but I do believe the Saints and Steelers both need quarterbacks at this point, because this Derek Carr situation is not getting better. I think he wants out of New Orleans. I don't think he's here for new coaching and all that jazz. I think he wants to go somewhere else. This injury news is not good. He could be out for the season anyway. So, man, it's a mess. And I think that them picking a 9 to 21 is another wild card that we may see something different happen. And if they don't take a quarterback, yet again, I think it's a disservice. But we'll see how things shake out, man. But as always, if you need to reach us on any platform, we are here in all social media platforms. Lockdown Davis Sports in most cases. Lockdown Davis on Twitter. Lockdown Davis Sports at gmail.com if you need to reach us through email. And as always, man, check us out each and every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. We drop our content typically at 3 p.m. each day. And we'll be doing a live show next week, doing the final mock on Tuesday, a live show on Thursday. We got another bunch of stuff planned for the next week for content each and every day, reaction videos and all that kind of jazz. So stay tuned. We got a lot of things moving, a lot of things popping for the NFL season. So in the meantime, between time, as always, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this video. And as always, you got to step up to lock it down.